Welcome to the Art of Succession podcast with Barrett Young. Join us as we explore the strategies, stories, and insights that shape the journey of leadership transitions and business success. No matter where you find yourself along the journey, this is the podcast where you'll find the tools to make it happen.
If you're like most of our listeners, you love the idea of running the show, but you're constantly second-guessing yourself if you're ready or the person for the job. Are you missing a key skill? Are you aware of the things you need to know, like reading a financial statement or financing the operations of a business? We are here to solve that for you. Our new free Ownership Readiness Diagnostic will rank you from 1 to 4 on 5 foundational pillars of successful business ownership. It is the ultimate confidence builder that will tell you, yes, it is time to have that conversation, or no, these are the areas that you might need a little bit more time to develop. If you're interested in taking that assessment, you can find the link for that down in the description below.
Welcome back to part 2 of my discussion with Alex Sanfilippo. If you want to watch part 1, where he shares his journey going from corporate C-suite level to launching PodMatch, you can find that discussion right here. Otherwise, let's get back to our show. Growth is not the only purpose, right? That's why it's a strategic acquisition. So, all right, walk me through the next one, because this one is interesting too. You started in this as wanting to podcast, and then you've built a podcasting company. So talk me through the next acquisition.
Yeah. So there was I had my podcast still. It was about entrepreneurship. During this time, I didn't shut down that show. I wanted to keep it going because I really loved it. It was called Creating a Brand. And it was the idea, the art of creating a brand. Really loved it. But the writing was on the wall that I had to make a change. Like if I go back to my corporate days, I left when I realized I can't be good at both anymore. Like I'm either gonna be that corporate guy or I'm gonna be this entrepreneur guy. And I had to make a decision. Once again, it's now PodMatch or creating a brand. Like which one is it going to be? And at that point, we didn't have any real community element for PodMatch. So it was, I say community, like we had the platform itself. So members had that, but there was no free tier of it, if you will, right? There was nowhere really for people to go. And, but for creating a brand, I built it in Mighty Networks, which is just like another social media, third-party social media type platform that you really control. So it's like, there's no ads and stuff in it, right? It's all yours. So it's basically like a glorified Facebook group, which the Mighty Networks people would be angry to hear me say to use that as an example, but it was doing really well. I was like, oh, we could use this. And so I looked around at changing the name of the podcast, and we kind of landed on Podcasting Made Simple. And when I looked around, because I wanted to see, is anyone already using this name? Because there might be some room for us to do something strategic. And sure enough, there was someone podcasting, doing a show called Podcasting Made Simple. I reached out to the guy, super nice guy, really cool, was actually ready to get out of it. He had just bought, I think it was his 6th business he had just bought, and was like in-person brick and mortar stuff. And he was like loving it. So he's like, I just do this podcasting on the side as a hobby when I can. He's like, but I can't really do it anymore. I was like, perfect. And so we worked up a price and what would be involved. And we took everything we had. So we had this community built up, and he had the Podcast Made Simple name, the whole brand. And so basically took all of that, bought it from him. And we did this big announcement. PodMatch now has a community wing, and we're welcoming everyone from Podcasting Made Simple over to it. And so we rebranded the community to the PodMatch community. Very simple there. And the show, which was Creating a Brand, then became Podcasting Made Simple. And that was the whole idea around it. Same thing. This got a lot of great press. We paid for press releases. We did all that. I kind of helped build up our name a little bit, and it immediately brought all the industry people saying, hey, we want to be on your show. So again, even the people I couldn't reach before that weren't convinced were now like, ooh, let me on your podcast. Please let me on your podcast. Like I can tell it's gonna be good. You've already got a built-in community. It's big, right? Like people saw that. And then it gave us the piece that we were missing, which was the community aspect, but also the educational wing of PodMatch. People all the time be like, what microphone should I get? Sure, we could have been building up blog posts and resource pages. I'm like, why don't we just practice what we preach and do a podcast?
Right.
It has all that. And so that was that strategic move as well, which again, gave us a really good organic bump and set us on a really great course from an education standpoint, which for me personally has become my favorite part about what I do, is getting to educate.
I'm interested in this part. Acquiring another podcast. Are you just acquiring the name? Are you acquiring the back catalog? Are you starting over with your own content? Are you co-hosting with that outgoing host? What did that look like in this situation to make sure that it wasn't just nope, that one's dead, this one's the new one kind of thing, so that you actually get that transfer of the audience?
All those options were on the table. In our first few conversations, we finally landed that we would take everything. So we take the feed, we even took all of his social media platforms because they were all branded toward the show. It's how I ended up on, at that point, it was called Twitter, because I never used Twitter. And he's like, oh, you should be on Twitter. He's like, here's one with was like 4,000 followers. They're all podcasters. I was like, oh, well, that's a good bump to start with, right? So we took everything over. And what we actually ultimately decided to do was we ended up ultimately clearing all of the past content, which was really tough to do. But when we went back through it, he was really big on like tech reviews and stuff like that. And that wasn't really the direction we wanted to go. And some of it was he'd been doing it for years, was pretty outdated. And so we removed all that. We sent him all the original stuff and told him, hey, if you ever want to do something else in podcasting, let us know. But here's this stuff. And then we can kind of negotiate that if you're ready. And he still to this day he's like, no, I'm doing this business stuff instead. And it's been good for him. So yeah, all that was on the table. We ultimately decided let's clear it all and kind of just start fresh with the name. And we rebranded a few things to match our own PodMatch brand for the community aspect of it.
Was it those two acquisitions, or did you have any additional ones along the way since then?
We're starting to look at more, which I unfortunately can't share about, but that was it from that regard. We actually built out a bunch of different little things in podcasting. So I wouldn't call this quite an acquisition. And I didn't mean for this to be the case, but I let out a public apology at one point because we had too many things that was confusing people.
Hmm.
So we started bringing them into the PodMatch umbrella. And a lot of people looked at this as acquisition, like strategic acquisition as well. And so still to this day, we get organic bumps whenever we bring something we have external PodMatch into PodMatch. There's actually only one thing left. When I started this process, it was 2023, and here we are years later. The 11 things we had going on, we're down now to just 2 things. That we've got PodMatch, we've got an app called Pod Lottery as well, and the goal is to bring that into PodMatch. But so those aren't like we didn't purchase those; they're our own, and it was my mistake for kind of building a brand like Alphabet would build something, or Meta, right? Alphabet being Google of the world, Meta being Facebook, Instagram, that type of thing. Instead, bring it all under one roof. And every time we bring one in, it's a really great bump. And so I'm thankful. I would not advise doing it that way. It was a mistake, I will tell you that. But I learned from it, and we kind of used it to propel ourselves forward.
So it would be a bump because though that platform would have its own existing users, but then there'd be kickback from it because of brand confusion. Like, what are you actually in the market for? Is that what you're saying here?
Yeah, people would my least favorite thing that would happen, Barrett, is I get on a podcast and the host would say, "This is Alex. He does this, 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 this." I don't even know what he does. He does so much stuff. And like that really always bothered me. I'm like, no, I do PodMatch. That's all I do, right? Like I need to be known for the one thing, but the problem is I had so many things. And so yeah, people just didn't sometimes people don't know what was like they didn't know. They're like, oh, I had no idea this was yours. Like I showed up and then your name was on it. Like I didn't even know. And so it was all on us. And every time again we bring things together, if there's a skeptic, like a perfect example, we had a tool called Podcast SOP, which was to help you with your production management. Now that's inside of PodMatch called Workflows. When we brought them together, we brought everyone from Podcast SOP to PodMatch, but also all the skeptics that were saying, I'm not sure if I want this PodMatch thing or this Podcast SOP thing. Maybe I'll do neither. Now they're like, oh, they're together. I will give it a shot now that they're in the same place. And so that's what I mean kind of by that like organic bump that we were able to track.
All right. So the confusion was before they were under one umbrella. It was you'd have all your list of companies that you'd started and everything, but once you brought them under one umbrella and they go to one place for them, it brought clarity.
Yep. I mean, as you said earlier, don't be a generalist. I know that you're talking about like being a guest or a host, but like it comes from being a founder as well. Like I just don't want to confuse people. And so bring it all under the one name. Even today, the introduction you did, like there was probably no confusion in your head what I do, because at this point we've really honed it in with this is what Alex does, right? And that's me and the team. And I'm very grateful that there's people in my corner to help me not become that generalist, because I think left on my own accord, being that overly ambitious entrepreneur that loves shiny objects, I might be 100 different things. But the reality is I'm just one, and focusing on that one has made a really big difference.
I want to shift the conversation a little bit now to, I mean, we've been talking about podcasts and we've been talking about PodMatch, but now I want to talk about like, where do you see, because I don't get to interview many professional podcasters or in the industry, where do you see podcasting today? And I want to talk about like the opportunity for businesses also.
Yeah. So podcasting it continues to be on the rise. And every day for the last year, I'd say I'm seeing an article somewhere where people are like, podcasting is officially mainstream. And I keep on saying that. I think at some point we just need to come with a conclusion. Like we don't need to keep saying it because it is mainstream at this point, which I'm very grateful for. But the amount of people that are listening to podcasts now, even to just 5 years ago or 8 years ago, like when I was getting started in this space, is just night and day different. And the way that people listen to podcasts is evolving as well. to me, this is the most important thing. The way people listen to podcasts is evolving. And I mean that it used to just be commute. Like strictly podcasting was going from going from your work to home or your home to work. Like that
Yep.
that was kind of how podcasting was consumed. And for some people that might still be the case, but for a lot of people, now it's worked in their normal daily schedule. If they're cooking, if they're cleaning, if they're working out, if they're going for a walk, if they're going for a run, if they are driving somewhere, like people listen to podcasts at all those times now. And it's really interesting because I can't go out in public anymore. Not this is not me talking about myself, but I'll hear someone walking by talking about a podcast they listen to anywhere I go. And I'm like, I always joke. I'm like, if I'm with my wife or the friends, I'm like, hey, +1 for podcasting. Just heard someone say it. Right. Like that +1. And so I believe that because the way people consume it and because it's such an intentional medium, it's going to continue to grow in power and its power and its influence on people. And now here's what I mean by it being an intentional medium. If you're tired or just need to kill some time, you're gonna on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, right? And those places are not bad. I'm not saying anything negative about them, but that's usually where you go. But no one's like, "Oh, man, I got 10 minutes here. I'm bored. I'm gonna listen to a podcast." Like that's not when you say that. You listen to a podcast and you're like, you know what? There's something here that I'm actually interested in hearing. And so you approach this form of media with a different mindset than I'd say any other form of media. And to me, that's what makes it powerful. That's what makes it stand out. And that's why I believe that the future of it is very bright. And I think we're still at the very early stages of what podcasting will become.
Yeah, I want to talk just a little bit about where it's come from and maybe dispel some ideas people might have in their heads about podcasting. But I know for me, that intentionality is exactly what podcasting is for me and what I've always loved. I've been listening to podcasts for almost 20 years. What I've always loved about it is you can pause and then pick up and then pause and then pick up, and it's going to pick up exactly where you left off. And so, yeah, that commute doesn't have to be, I can only listen to a 30-minute podcast. I'll listen to a 2-hour podcast across 2 days of commuting, or, I'll sit down and do a puzzle and listen to a podcast, and it could be like a 3-hour podcast, and it'll take me 2 weeks to listen to the whole thing. But you're right. It's like, no, now's the time when I need to not have to pick the next thing every 5 minutes. I need to just put this on and zone out on whatever I'm doing, listening to this thing. And you're right. I hadn't thought about that before. It's that intentional visiting there. So let's talk about business use though for podcasts, because, podcasts have come a long way. And everybody thinks of the big podcasts like Joe Rogan and Pod Meets World, one of them I found last year. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're doing Boy Meets World on a podcast. They think of like celebrities. Celebrities have their own podcasts and they all do their show, everything like that. Or you've got to be a big name, or you're just going to be two buddies in a beer podcast like you started, like I started. So talk about a business use case though for podcasts.
Yeah. Here's the thing that gives me like the confidence to be able to talk about this is any SEO expert that I know or AI expert, like the people that are like at the top of their game with this, they have podcasts. And it's interesting because like that's not their main business. But the fact is that these people see enough value in having a podcast for what it does from a credibility standpoint online that they say it's worth it for that reason. And so listen, if anyone hearing this is like, oh, I don't know if it's going to grow my business, going to do this, at the very least, it's going to make you more credible online. And the reality is anytime I tell somebody I have a podcast, I think a lot of people that are thinking about starting a podcast or that have one assume it's saturated, but the reality is it's not. Like the chances of meeting someone in public that has a podcast of their own that's currently podcasting that's active is extremely slim. Like it's probably not going to happen. And so for me, whenever someone's like, "You have a podcast?" Like, "Are you for real?" Barrett, the downside of my podcast when I tell people is it's about podcasting. So you immediately get this really like, oh, like response, like, what do you mean you have a podcast about podcasting? Right. So it's not as interesting as as the art of succession, right? Like where you have some people like, I'm gonna listen to that. No one ever says that to me. But my point is it it builds some credibility online and in person with humans and with robots. It's going to build credibility. And but it goes back to what you said, Barrett. It can't be like two bros in a beer type of podcast. So that's not a bad name for one, but like it's got to be focused. It has to be something that's in alignment with what you're talking about. So if you have some sort of consulting agency, don't do a golf podcast unless you want to purely be a hobby. Great. No, it needs to be about consulting. It needs to be about what you are doing because again, that's how you build your credibility in both places. So online and in person. Very, very important that you connect those things somehow, some way. To me, that might be the biggest thing. But if I could share like one more thing that it's helped me with personally, your ability to communicate and articulate your message well. You become a better speaker. You understand your own craft better when you can talk about it on a regular basis. And so for me, being a podcaster, either side of the microphone, really, like I'm better. I'm not still not the most well-spoken guy, but I am much better spoken now than I've ever been in my life because of doing this. Those are some of like I don't know if I'd call those like the intangible reasons that would be good, but Barrett, I'd be curious, you being a podcaster for such a long time, do you have any thought on this one? Because I actually want to learn from you as well here.
So rare I get to talk on my own show.
Right? You're like, am I allowed to do this?
For me, it's the building credibility part, and I did find that out very quickly, like you said, when I launched the podcast and started having peers on early on that were other CPAs that had bought and sold their firm. I started to look around and realized how few of us in the CPA world are actually running podcasts, actively continuing them. Now, like you said, there are so many people who started a podcast and run it for, 10, 15, even 100 episodes and then stopped. But actively running it, it's like you can count on one hand when you start to pay attention to that stuff. So that was great. For me, it's the connections. And this is my first interview podcast. And I was always afraid of doing that because it was always just me and a buddy, and we'd have a topic, 3 different podcasts, me plus one co-host each time, because that's no lift, right? We're just going to get together and we're going to talk, whatever's on our mind kind of thing. Booking guests is nerve-wracking. It's like, what if they don't have anything quality to share? What if this goes poorly? What if I don't come up with good questions? But over the past year of running this, 2 seasons of running this, the biggest benefit for me has been the conversations and the people I meet and the stories that I get. And so I come into this and I'm like curious, and I get to learn things as my audience is learning it. So that's a huge benefit for me.
I'm glad you brought that up because if you didn't, I was going to. I've got two friends. One says, podcast are the new business card, which I thought was pretty good. The other one, podcasting's the new golf, is what he says. He's like, you're building that know, like, and trust with somebody who's in that green room with you. Like, perfect example, Barrett, if you hit me up next week and need something, I'm probably going to help you out.
Right.
And here's why. We did a great job on this podcast. Like we have talked about things I've never talked about on any other podcast. And so like, this is a meaningful experience for me and hopefully for you as well. But the thing is, like, now we have the foundation of meaningful experience. Like, what else can we do together? The connections, the network, like what you're doing to build with another person,
Right.
that is just so valuable. And listen, like we didn't talk about like growing your business and your brand as a result, because you can definitely do that too. That can be part of it. I just think that that's the more obvious stuff. And that's why we didn't bring it up here today. These other pieces that we talked about are the things that a lot of people who get into podcasting don't think about, but they are maybe the most valuable parts.
Yeah. I want to talk briefly here at the end about video and also AI, and how both of those are going to have a positive and a negative impact on podcasting in your mind. Video, first off, this is my first interview show. It's also my first video first show, mostly because when I started podcasting, it was Skype, and we were not putting that video on on YouTube.
Same. I'm right there with you.
So it's become so much easier, and I've really enjoyed the aspect. And I started over the past couple of years, the podcasts that I'd listen to, if they had a video component, I'd always be Googling hosts of podcasts I listened to, trying to figure out what they looked like, who they were, like what other things they had going on. And video just makes that so much more close for me. But I also know in true podcast purists also see it as a threat. So I want to hear your thoughts on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So the first thing I'll say is it's not required. Video is up to you if you want to do it or not. To me, now with this modern software, like today we're using Riverside. Skype, like you said, it was awful. Like, I mean, it was no one would ever want to watch it, and you should be embarrassed if you post it, basically, right? Like going back to those days. And that's just where technology was at. But now you have beautiful video, and it doesn't. You're not capturing bad audio because you're getting video now. Like at one point, you had to kind of choose between the two. Like, you want good audio or do you want some video? And so, because you can, I tell people if you're not like ashamed of it, like, and you don't, maybe I don't have a problem with how you look or anything like that, like, go ahead and post a video. For me, I find a lot of podcasts these days through YouTube. I don't want to watch a podcast, but I can find it because the search engine is just so good on YouTube. So I can find it. And then I also like to see who's talking. Like if I were a listener to this, I'd be curious, okay, what does Alex look like? What does Barrett look like? And then I want to go listen because now I have some sort of in my mind, I can kind of envision who these people are. And if not, we're left on our own accord to kind of guess that type of thing ourselves anyway. But so I like the video element because it just is another way to develop that know, like, and trust with people. It allows them to kind of see who you are, where you are, and it kind of makes it feel a bit more authentic, keeping in mind that most of the consumption is still going to happen through listenership. And the best example like this I can give is my own show, Podcasting Made Simple. We do quote unquote everything right on YouTube. So I'm not like posting under some random name. Like we do everything that you're supposed to do on YouTube to get it really well done. And then we post everything through our podcast feed as well. Over at time of recording this, it's over 92% of our consumption is through the audio formats, not through the video. Again, doing everything right. Video is a lot more work as well, but it is getting streamlined. So for me, if you can do audio video without it taking up your entire life, go for it. If you're like, that's too much pressure, I don't like the way I look, I don't want to do that, I'm already stressed just doing the video, the audio, then just do audio. It is much easier to do it that way. If I go back though to my entire backlog of my podcast, there was before video and after video. I wish I had video for some of the original ones that I did because I'd actually like to we had such good synergy. It'd be cool to rewatch it. And maybe that's just me as a host, but at the very least, capture it. You never know when you might want it.
It's a good point. You can use Riverside and then just export the audio if that's all you want.
Sure.
But
Yeah,
you'll at least
absolutely.
have that for the future, and you can release it as backlog seasons or something like that in the future. So I like it. All right, AI. I don't know what it's going to do to podcasting, but I'm really interested to hear, as I worry about accounting, I worry about tax prep, what AI is going to do to this. I talk about this with my AI bot all the time, how to keep my team, you know, in the future, so to ensure that we're still going to have a company in a couple of years. For me, the personal connection is what is going to be critical in the future. You can get your tax return done here, but if you want your tax return done this way, with this approach, this kind of principles behind it, this is who you go to. And I think for me, you could tell me if I'm wrong or if you have thoughts on this too. I think podcasting is that same way of you're getting to know the person behind the professional, getting to know the person behind the business or the culture behind the company. Is that where you see podcasting continuing to play a role? Because I mean, there's AI co-hosts, there's, you know, AI yourself, cartoonify yourself, all that kind of stuff. But what do you see uniquely podcasting can help with facing this AI challenge?
I'm going to share a story about a podcaster that I really enjoy, and she's like a live podcaster. And this is going back a few years. I don't know why she did this. And I think it was just part of her personality. She would have thousands of people there live. It was like always an event basically. And she'd get on camera and she'd be finishing her lunch. And so she's like eating almonds or eating chips while she's talking for the first couple minutes. And my wife would always be like, "Is that Gina again?" She's like, "Why is she doing that?" Like, I don't get it. I would be over here laughing, and I'm like, "It's just her. Like, you get what you get, and this is just how she shows up." And I grew to really love it. And if she ever wasn't eating, I could tell in the chat. People were like, "Where's your food?" Right? Like, and I don't think she meant to make it part of her brand, but the reality is that was a very human element of what she brought to the table that people really learned to love or at least make fun of. Right? Like, there was something there. It'd be hard to program a computer to ever mimic something like that and it feel authentic. Like that would be very hard to replicate. And also if it weren't Gina, it might be annoying, but it was her. So people just loved it. And there's no real way to say why that was. I'm mentioning all this because of something you just said, Barrett. There are apps now that you can do a totally AI driven podcast. The content will probably like the actual content they're saying, not necessarily the voices and stuff like that, might be better than what you and I can come up with because it has a bigger database than we do of knowledge, right? Like, and then they've built in where sometimes they'll even accidentally hit the microphone, they'll cough, they'll clear their throat, like all these things happen. So it's trying to mimic humanity, and maybe one day it'll get figured out. But as of right now, and the tech is considered pretty advanced, if you let somebody listen to an AI podcast with someone having a conversation with someone else, like you and I are right now, and you ask the human who's listening to it, what do you think of it? All of the data still shows right now something feels off even if they can't tell it's AI, they're like, something just doesn't seem right about it. Like, it's not engaging. I'm not interested. It's the best information I've ever heard, maybe, but like, it's not really helpful. I believe that one of the things that makes podcasting so unique, and the reason people say, "Hey, I want to listen to a podcast intentionally right now," is because they feel like being part of a human conversation. They want to be part of the human discoverability process. Like, how do we learn and grow together? It's that we're actually together. And so I don't see it having a whole big threat when it comes to like replacing us as the podcast guest and the host. So like the host and the talent, like I don't see it replacing that. Where I see it coming in is really helping elevate what we're good at, which for you, me, Barrett, like you're a great interviewer. You're a great podcaster. You don't necessarily need to be working up a transcript, right? That's what AI is really good at, is coming up with the
That's what
transcript
it's
for you.
used for.
Yeah, that's what it's used for. It's great for coming up with titles and descriptions, for brainstorming, like, hey, I want to ask Alex something unique, like coming kind of finding the vibe. And I can tell, like, you didn't pull these questions from AI. You may have, maybe it helped you initially, but you said, okay, you know what? No, I think there might be something at this one, but I want to go this direction instead. From a research standpoint, all these things, it can be very, very helpful. I don't ever see it replacing us as the talent, the voice, the people, right? It'll just help inform and help be an administrative assistant behind us. Last thing I'll say on this is since AI came out, my small team of just a handful of people can do, I mean, triple, quadruple more than we were able to beforehand. Things we never imagined we were able to do, we can now do easily because they've enabled us to do that. That's helping us serve the people we want to serve even better.
Yeah, awesome. The answer I was expecting or looking for. So
Good.
that's great. Alex, before we get into the lightning round, was there anything else that I didn't cover that you wanted to share today?
The last thing I'll share is both in startup world, software world, business, entrepreneurship, and in podcasting. I think that the most important thing is serving somebody.
Yeah.
And when I say serving somebody, I don't mean going out and saying, I want to serve a whole group of people. Like you need to find someone specific. You got to have a why behind what you do. And that why needs to be connected directly to like an ideal client, an avatar, someone that you say, this is the individual that I know I can serve. And I just find that the businesses and the podcasters that seem to really figure that out well and know who that person is almost intimately, like naming them and everything like that, even if they're fictitious, they seem to be the ones that are making the biggest moves in today's world. So I just encourage everybody, like, if you've not stepped back and do that, even if you're established in business, go back to that why and go back to the avatar and really, really figure that out and get that honed in. Cause I think that makes a bigger move than almost anything else we can do.
So it's not just a dating service for podcasters. It's like a dating service for the marketplace.
There you
Get
go.
out there and really know who that target customer is.
That's
Um,
good.
because you're going to be able to serve them so much better than a generalist will too. So yeah, I love it. Great way to wrap that up. All right, are you ready for the lightning round?
Let's do it.
All right. Coffee or tea, and how do you like it prepared?
I do hot dandelion tea. I add collagen, MTC oil, and butter.
Okay. Kind of like a bulletproof tea almost, it sounds like.
It's actually literally, it used to be bulletproof coffee. I moved over to tea because I think it gives me more, it has less caffeine, but for some reason more energy. That's exactly where I model it from. So good call there.
Gotcha. All right. Pie or cake, and do you have a favorite kind?
I don't know how to answer this because cheesecake is my favorite. It has the word cake in it, but if you're going to order a whole cheesecake,
It's a
it's called a
pie.
pie. So I don't actually know, but cheesecake.
Cheesecake. That's its own category.
Right.
It's hybrid. I think it is a pie. It's something to do with the crust. I know that much. What's your favorite holiday and why?
4th of July. I live in Jacksonville, Florida, really close to the ocean, and I love the heat. And my wife and I love riding bikes on 4th of July. And there's like thousands of people do that every year. It's just a great time to bring friends in. Everyone wants to be at the beach. So it's just like really social, really fun, really outside. And that's what we love about it.
Awesome. I think you're my second one in 2 years that said 4th of July. So
Okay. All right. Is Christmas the common one? Well, you know what?
Christmas is the common one.
Get
Christmas
everyone
and
to go listen. They'll
Thanksgiving.
figure it out. Someone add them all up for us.
A poll coming soon, or pie chart coming soon. Do you consider yourself a morning person or a night person? And do you have a favorite routine?
So I'm naturally a night person, but I know I'm a better person if I get up in the morning. So I do, like, my routine is to make sure I'm in bed by 10 o'clock, and that gets me up by 6 a.m. And then my favorite thing to add to that is I have a sauna, and I love being in the sauna first thing in the morning. So that's kind of how I like to kick off my day.
Okay, awesome. What's a common belief among entrepreneurs that you would want to challenge?
The constant pursuit of more is a necessity. That's what I want to challenge. I find that so many of us, we're like, I want more and more and more. And it's that constant pursuit of more that I think actually ends up making us really bitter and really unhappy. I think it's better to go after better and to say that, like, I'm going to build a better work and life. And that's not always more. Sometimes it's the exact opposite of that.
It's great. What's one thing that you would want your successor to remember you for?
This is my favorite question, Barrett. So thank you for asking this one. My integrity. I want somebody who takes over from whatever I do to say that this individual, Alex, always did what was most right, regardless of the cost involved in it, whether that's financial, time, or reputation, whatever it might be. Integrity matters.
That's great. Alex, where are you finding creativity right now?
I started walking to my gym. I have a trainer, and it's 15-minute walk there and back. And instead of driving, I started walking. And I just usually listen to like, I don't know what to call it other than like spa music, which I don't even listen to on in the sauna, but just like music with no words. I like listening to that. And as I'm walking, I seem to just like kind of just my creative juices really start flowing.
Huh, I love that. What's one thing you have coming up in the next year that's got you really excited?
So for years, I've been working on my own daily planner, and I started off literally like just pieces of paper I was writing lines on, and then ultimately got it like printed, and then I had a company print it, but it's still just loose paper. But now I have a distributor, and I say distributor, I'm not like selling this. It'll be for me, but it'll actually be like in a proper like leather book, and it'll be like, this is how Alex, this is how Alex is the most effective that he can be. So I've been working on it for like 4 years, just as like a fun hobby, like no more than 10 minutes a week, probably. But it's finally come to the point where I'm about to actually have it printed, and I'm actually really excited about that, to not be carrying loose pages around anymore.
That's cool. Is the goal to have one per year then, or
It runs in 90-day cycles, so it'd be 4
90
per year.
days?
Yep.
Wow. Excellent. All right, Alex, where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, and Barrett, thank you again for having me, man. This has been so fun. Podmatch.com/free is where I tell everyone to go. Whether you're a podcast host, podcast guest, or aspiring to be one or the other, podmatch.com/free will give you 9 ideas that I put together that I think will really help you out. And it's not going to ask for email address or anything like that. It's just my way of giving back to people that want to get into podcasting or are already in podcasting on either side of the microphone. So podmatch.com/free. And Barrett, again, thank you. This was seriously an honor to be here today.
Thank you so much, Alex. It's been a pleasure. I hope that you've enjoyed this discussion with Alex Sanfilippo as much as I have. Here on the Art of Succession podcast, we have interviews with business owners with their own succession stories twice every month. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, you can find the link for that down in the description below. If this show has been beneficial for you at all, I'd ask that you please share it with someone else. And I want to thank you for watching The Art of Succession.